Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Riffs. Today's episode features a conversation I had in Missoula, Montana while attending the annual Outdoor Media Summit with Kevin Paulson from Hunting Life magazine. We riffed on the Outdoor Media Summit, Kevin's new position at AGLOW, the Association of Great Lakes Outdoor Writers, and a little more. Not too long, though. Enjoy. Hey, Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. We're sitting in a coffee shop down the street from where the Outdoor Media Summit is happening this week. That's going to be an exciting event. You've been to a couple of these, I think?
This is my fourth OMS, and to be honest, it's one of the shows that I get excited and look forward to every single year.
Yeah, same. This is probably my fourth as well, maybe. And I agree. It's just one of those events that all the right specific outdoor folks are here. There's a lot of enthusiasm. There's great. I've presented a few times, which has been fantastic. And then there's a lot of great presentations to go witness, too. It's great. And good opportunity for guys like us to meet with brands.
Oh, no, 100%. And it's like you said, it's the 200 best people in the industry in the same room together for 3 days.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you really get the opportunity to spend one-on-one time with each one of them.
Yeah, yeah. And I know we talked about having you on the show, I think recording at one of these, and we didn't happen. We had a great conversation unrecorded.
Yeah.
Which might be, the topics we talked about might be a good thing.
Yeah, no, it worked out fine. So, happy to be able to do it this year. So
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Kevin, what you do, how'd you get into the outdoors?
Yeah, I was born into the outdoors. My dad was 33 years in the United States Forest Service, and I started walking in his footsteps at the age of 5, and really just learning from my dad, like how our national forest systems worked and all about resource management. And it was just like we would drive down the road and my dad would be like, "What kind of tree is that?" And I'd be like, "That's a sugar pine, Dad." And so I really got to see all of our national forest systems in California and all of our national forests. And then I started fishing and hunting alongside of him. And when I was 14, we moved to Washington, D.C., and my dad worked in the Department of Agriculture under the Forest Service there for 5 years, working on policy for all of our national forests. And I graduated high school outside in Fairfax, Virginia, and moved to Weber State in Ogden, Utah, and began to do some climbing in the outdoors and some skiing in the outdoors, and I just loved it.
Yeah.
And then I worked in Alaska on a cruise ship. And had a phenomenal time there, taking customers in and out of Glacier Bay 3 times a week.
Wow.
And came off of that, and I joined a company in Pittsburgh called Clicks, doing litigation support for law firms and just making copies basically at the time. And I loved that business, and I started to make some money doing that. And we got into document imaging, electronic discovery, and I was making real money. And I had learned basically about tithing in my youth, and so I began to tithe to the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. And so I was giving 10% of what I made back to the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. And really because that specific organization, because they were purchasing habitat at the time and then taking that habitat and donating it back to public lands.
Cool.
And I really believed that land, we're not making more of it. So at this point, like if we want to protect the ability to hunt and fish, we have to do it through land acquisition.
Yeah.
And so if that land can then be deeded back to the public and be managed for public domain, and that helps hunters and fishermen as well, but it also hunts like the backpackers and the skiers and the rock climbing guys because they want access. It's just incredibly vitally important. And so I began doing that. I bought an outfitting business here in Idaho and Montana. And I owned a third of the business along with 2 partners. And then in 2006, my dad passed away, and I just kind of really lost my taste for outfitting. And so I sold that business and bought huntinglife.com the next day. And the reason why was because the most important part that I liked about running the outfitting business was we wrote a blog for our website.
Oh, cool.
And my job was to write that blog and tell people specifically like, hey, here's the best boots to bring, or here's the best camo to bring. And I wanted them to understand like what they were going to need in order to, when they came out and hunted with us, what it was to be successful.
Right.
And so I love that part the best.
So that was your connection to the retail side of the world?
That was my connection.
Gear,
It was like learning how to begin writing gear. And so when I started huntinglife.com, we were kind of an outfitter directory and a gear blog. And then kind of the bottom dropped out of outfitting at that point because we were going through a depression. And so a recession per se. And I was like, okay, I better get kind of out of the outfitting side of that world and just create a national news source for hunting and conservation. And that's what huntinglife.com is. And about 4 years ago, we started our own magazine.
Right on.
I have an amazing editor, Brittany Booth, who does my editing for us. And on the magazine, we've won some awards this last couple of years.
Congratulations.
And I'm just enjoying the process of being a magazine editor now.
It's amazing. I kind of stumbled into the media side of the world, too, with the podcast. And I didn't anticipate how much fun it would be. You don't see that side of it when you're on the other side. You're reading the magazines, or even I would sit in meetings at trade shows with media, and there's typical meetings, buyers, whatever it was, and it's so much fun. This event, the Outdoor Writers Association event is a good one. There's about 2 or 3 of these events that are fantastic, and it's just a fun bunch. Yeah.
I used to drive back and forth commuting into Washington, D.C., and I would listen to, NPR has a show called Fresh Air with Terry Gross, and I used to listen to her interview people. I'm like, that has got to be probably one of the funnest jobs in the entire world, because you get to sit down with somebody and actually get to know who they are in an hour. Yeah. And I always loved that show. And so being in creating Hunting Life that's part of what I do, is I get to sit down with people and just get to know who they are as an individual. And I have the best time in the entire world.
You have a podcast too, right?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I think we'll create one probably in the next year or so.
Yeah.
Probably more on that. We own huntinglife.com.
Yeah.
We produce Hunting Life magazine. And then we also have a newsletter kind of on the side called the Outdoor Hive. And the Outdoor Hive is a newsletter specifically for people looking for jobs in the hunting and shooting and recreational fishing space. So we created this specifically because I knew people, they love being in this industry.
Yeah. Everybody loves it. Once they get in,
loves
it's
it.
Like,
They
wow,
just,
I didn't know about this.
And the outdoor side kind of they have Base Camp Outdoors, and I think that's a tremendous resource.
A bunch of good ones, yeah.
And then there's outdoor industry jobs.
Yeah.
But the shooting and hunting side never really had that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, let's create that. And so we've done that, and we're creating a newsletter. We gain more subscribers every single year, and it's just growing exponentially. And the brands are starting to see, hey, like, this is a great opportunity to list their jobs with us, and we'll see where it goes.
And as a media person, then you've also been a member of AGLOW for some time, correct? Tell us what AGLOW is.
Yeah, AGLOW is the Association of Greater Lakes Outdoor Writers. And I kind of cut my teeth. When I first got into this industry, I joined a writers organization called SEOPA, and it was the Southeast Outdoor Professional Association. And in joining that, I got to see, like, here's this list of other people who are just like me. And I began to kind of like ask them questions like, hey, how do you get a magazine article published in Field and Stream?
Right.
Or how do you land a newspaper job and where you're doing a column for a newspaper?
Right.
And I began to kind of learn from all of those people. And then as well, there were brands that were associated with those particular writing organizations. They would bring their products to a trade show every year, or a tourism destination would bring their information on, like, Travel Georgia or Charleston, West Virginia. And I would get to kind of see, like, maybe that was a good destination to write about. And so in that process, I got to continue to network. And that's what all of these great trade shows like OMS is all about. It's about spending quality belly-to-belly time with somebody where you're just like, it's a live opportunity to stand next to them and have a real conversation that isn't on a Zoom call, that isn't superficial, that is just real. And sharing a beer, sharing a drink, breaking bread together. Those kinds of opportunities are just so few and far between in any industry, but especially in this industry. And so I'm at a trade show, I can't do that.
Yeah. Did you do any writing before you joined AGLOW? Were you writing?
I was writing for Hunting Life basically every day. And then but prior to that, I had never blogged before.
Where did you get your writing chops? Made them up?
I really don't have writing chops. I struggled in English in high school, and my English teacher would probably be like rolling over in his grave knowing that I'm a writer now. But it's you just start doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, like I loved being able to say what I wanted to say, and my editor will probably tell you that I don't do it very well, but that's okay because that's why I have an editor.
Exactly.
And it's just repetition. Like anybody honestly could be a writer. Yeah. It's just a choice. Like, you want to put down the information that you want. You know that a basic article has a beginning, middle, and an end.
Yep.
and go produce what you want to go produce.
Exactly. Yeah. I tell people the same thing about podcasting.
Yeah.
They're all afraid of the technology, which is really easy, as you saw setting
Right.
up.
No, yeah.
And then just talking. That's what I tell everybody. It's just you talk to people all the time. Just turn on the mics.
Yeah.
It ain't that hard, And
Yeah.
then the back
And we
end
should
is
honestly
easy.
create a podcast for huntinglife.com, and we should probably create a podcast
Yeah.
for Outdoor Hive.
Yeah.
And I know I'll be doing lots of interviews for AGLOW, so
Yeah.
going through. So AGLOW is the Association of Greater Lakes Outdoor Writers. And I tell anybody, if you're in the media world, you should be a member of one of these organizations.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you're a content creator.
Yeah.
You produce YouTube videos, or you're producing TikTok videos, and you're starting to go viral and you're growing. If you're an outdoor photographer, if you're an outdoor writer,
I agree
join
100%.
one of these organizations. And there's some really great ones out there. OWAA is a phenomenal organization. It's Outdoor Writers Association of America.
Yeah.
They produce a really, really great conference every single year.
Yeah.
And they're more focused on the adventure sports, the hiking, the backpacking, the skiing, the destination and tourism locations.
Yeah.
There's POMA, the Professional Outdoor Media Association. I've been affiliated with POMA for a couple of decades now. And they're really heavily focused on the shooting side of the industry and the hunting side of the industry. And then AGLOW is focused on the shooting and the fishing side. And they're probably a little more fishing centric. In fact, I just learned this is our 68th year.
Wow.
And we have 52 members in the United States Fishing Hall of Fame.
Wow.
There are 400 total members, and 52 of those members have been AGLOW members over the last 68 years.
That's impressive.
So we're really strong on that fishing side, and we're kind of a regional organization focused on all of the states around the Greater
Great
Lakes.
Yeah.
However, we've got members across 40 states in the United States, and we're really going to be growing into being a national organization, and I just accepted a role as the executive director for that organization.
Congrats.
And I've got some really big shoes to fill behind Mark
Yeah.
Smith, who's been the executive director for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
He's just a phenomenal individual.
I know.
And he's stepped onto our board, thank goodness, because I'll get to glean some of that knowledge off
can
of
give
him
you a
for the
little
next several
tutelage.
years.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to stepping this role. I kind of see it as a legacy position.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I'm super proud of, and having created Hunting Life and created Hunting Life magazine, is that I've really focused a lot of time on finding those young outdoor writers that are just kind of coming up the ranks.
That's huge these days. I think we lose sight of that. Guys like you and I who are at the back end of our careers, and there's so many young people out there that do all the things that we did, and some of them don't seem to be joiners. I think sometimes they need to be get a little coaxing. But once they get involved, and some of them just see the fact that, there's a whole group I can talk to about this, it's really a good thing.
Well,
And we
and
can learn from those kids too. let me tell you.
Absolutely. We can learn from them, and they can certainly learn from
Yeah,
us. And I
yeah.
think that you're right. I come to events like this, and I'll meet these young kids, and they're 25, 30, and they're not a joiner. They've never thought about sending $100 to join a writing organization or $150 to join an OWA. They just never really thought about it. And they're like, well, why would I do that? I'm already successful. And I'm like, yeah, but you're successful at this level. Like exponentially, you could be successful at a much bigger level.
Yeah. And you're successful within this, at that level, but also within this circle of other enthusiasts like you. That circle is 1,000 times bigger than you realize.
Well, I just think that if you're a YouTuber, you're hyper focused on only YouTube.
Yeah. And that's amazing the reach they establish on YouTube, right?
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, and I'm blown away with some of
Yeah.
these kids that can do that.
Yeah.
However, I can also say, from my perspective, I have a press card because I'm a member of POMA and AGLOW.
Right.
And having that press card exponentially allows me to expand the reach that I have for my audience.
Yeah.
And so, I'm talking to tourism locations. I just met with Travel Montana this morning, and we're going to create a trip specifically for members of AGLOW to come to Montana and do a cast and blast event next September.
Cool.
And so, those small opportunities are ones that writers who are lone wolves don't get the chance to participate in.
Yeah. And they give you that press card, and belonging to that group gives you access to things that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
Well,
not
I go
only
to
people, but
conventions
it's-
and trade shows that nobody ever thought was possible.
Right, right.
And I'll give an example of that. I go to SHOT Show every single year, which is the shooting, hunting, outdoor trade show. And every single year I go to this event, and I'm in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas has lots of other conventions. Well, a press card can get you into those conventions because you can just go and say, I'm just here to learn.
Right.
Well, last year I got to go to the Specialty Foods Association convention. And so I walk into this convention, and it's 800 booths, all focused on food.
Wow.
And I started thinking, like, the second I walked in the door, I walked by a barbecue sauce company.
Exactly.
And I'm like, oh my God, I could pair that with venison.
Yeah.
And I was able to, like, get a sample of that barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
And I was able to write an article about utilizing this barbecue sauce with the venison and how freaking good it was.
Right.
And it exponentially changed the quality of that article by having that press card and allowing me to get into that event.
Yeah.
And that kind of opportunity,
Yeah.
like I said, a lone wolf who's not a member of one of these associations doesn't understand.
Yeah, and I think in these days, whatever your specialty is, being a lone wolf limits you a lot because you don't have this kind of access to not only other people but groups and organizations. And you don't have to join them, but it gets you join one of them so you get a press card so you can get into those shows because there's all kinds of shows about all kinds of things. It's amazing. I went to a coffee show in Anaheim one time, just flabbergasted by all the coffee stuff.
Yeah, it's just
so you never know.
Such a learning opportunity, and it's a learning opportunity that you wouldn't get.
Yeah.
And like you just can't just walk into the Specialty Foods Association without having to pay to get into that show.
Right.
And,
which is hundreds of dollars sometimes.
Which is hundreds of dollars. And SHOT Show is a prime example. Like, they do not allow the consumer to come to that show. It's a business trade show.
Yeah.
So the average person never will get to go to SHOT Show.
Yeah.
Now, if you're actually in the media and you're truly vetted and you're a member of one of these organizations, then you can apply for a media membership.
Yeah.
And you have to show your credentials. And your credentials will include a card, basically, from one of these writing associations that allows you to get in.
Yeah.
And those organizations like National Shooting Sports Foundation, they rely upon AGLOW and SHOT Show and OWAA to vet the writers who are applying. And so when they see that card, they know instantly, yes, we're going to let that person come into our show.
Yeah.
And the same is true when you go stand in front of like the media folks in the press room at the Specialty Foods Association. They say, can we see your press card? Yep. They look at your press card and they're like, okay, no problem. And they let you in.
Yeah. And all these shows, I mean, I went to Outdoor Retailer for many, many years and the ski show. And again, you couldn't get in unless you were a brand displaying at the show or a retailer. But if you had a press card, walk right in the door.
Yep.
The running event is the same way. It just opens so many doors. And like you say, food and things you wouldn't initially maybe think, man, why do I want to go to that? But go in. Just go in. And
go learn.
Go learn. And you may walk the whole day and not say, okay, I don't have to go back to this. But if you hadn't gone in and you went in and found 2 contacts, made your day. So
I found 10 products in the day of the Specialty Food Association that I was able to work into articles throughout the entire year. And I'll be back this year again going to that show. I mean, it's the Specialty Food Association. So you walk up to a booth, and I walked up to a booth, and they handed me a piece of Wagyu beef, and they said, here, try it. And I'm like, this is the best day ever. And I'm walking around, and I mean, there's 800 booths, and they're all putting food in your mouth. Like, this is a good day.
Yeah, and nothing's bad.
Nothing's bad. And so at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, even if you only got one, it was still a worthwhile day for me because I never would have been able to taste honey from Calabasas, California, or Wagyu beef from Japan, or barbecue sauce from Alabama. Like, it just wouldn't have happened. And so, like I said, that is a just direct correlation to having an actual press card.
And those shows are a little different than the consumer shows that you go to. Because the consumer shows, those people are there to sell stuff. Right? That's the end to the consumer. When you get into these trade shows, it's a whole different relationship. It's a whole different conversation. There's not only connections you can make for gear usage or samples of food and things, but then also sponsorship opportunities.
And we're going back over here to OMS, and we're going to have the Speed Dating with Brands event today. And it's basically a mini trade show. And I'm going to get to go up and stand there and talk with the team from Mystery Ranch and have conversations about, like, what specifically they're working on in the future, but also like specifically like what products have come out in the last 6 months. And we're going to be able to look at all of those products and really, touch and feel them and ask questions so that when I'm sitting down at my desk 2 months from now and I'm writing an article about my Mystery Ranch pack that I utilize, I'm able to have that information and I can ask those questions across the board.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and you can also talk to them about, like for podcasting, opportunities to come on the show, collaborations. If you're a writer or whoever you are, a collaboration opportunity is really exciting.
No, 100%. And I'm also like, I'm a for-profit business. So at the end of the day, like I'm going to hand them my business card, and on my business card is a QR code for my media kit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask them to, hey, come sponsor me. And that may or may not work out, but I at least got that opportunity because I was here at this event.
Yeah.
And so it's important to be able to attend these kinds of conferences. And yes, it requires a little bit of spend of money out of my pocket to be able to fly here and go, but who cares? At the end of the day, I'm going to walk out of here with 100+ business cards of people that actually make a difference in this industry.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to be able to see those people year after year and get to know them. And I just sat down and had lunch with, like I said, Travel Montana, and I had a great conversation with them. And the PR girl for Nick Wax was there, and he's talking about their product. And so when I need a specific product from Nick Wax to be able to complete an article, I can pick up the phone and call her and say, hey, can you send this over to me really quick? I need a photograph of this particular product so I can add that into my article because I know that my reader really needs to know about that particular product of waterproofing for their boots.
Yeah. And it's not only the samples and the relationships, but it also opens up writing opportunities. You never know if you're writing for various folks like AGLOW, magazines and things like that, you might also get an opportunity with this brand to write something for the brand.
Absolutely.
Or do some kind of collaboration.
And there's also, this particular show has magazine editors here. Colin from Field and Stream is here, and Sage Marshall, one of the editors for Field and Stream, is here. And so I can walk up to them and say, hey, look, here's an example of some of my writing. And I would kill to have an article penned under my name in Field and Stream magazine. That's been a magazine that I've been reading since I was 5 years old.
Exactly, same.
I used to flip through and stare at the big brown trout pictures and the mule deer pictures, and I'm like, oh man, my dad would be, the smile on my dad's face would have been just tremendous seeing his son's name as a writer in a Field and Stream.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about AGLOW. Let's talk a little bit about just the aspect of writing. What advice do you have for someone who's young person out there, might be good at writing, might do a little writing on their own? How do they get started? What do you suggest they do to get into the writing for whatever outdoor activity they want? Fish, hunt, ski?
I think in today's world, there's so many platforms out there that you can begin writing for with just zero experience whatsoever.
Blog, exactly.
You could start a blog, and honestly, any outdoor writer in America should have their own blog where they put content about just riffing every single day on something and putting it out there, because the only way to know if you're a really good writer is to start writing and then people begin following your stuff. I would tell a young writer today to start writing on Substack.
Good.
Because I think that Substack is a platform that honestly is just a tremendous opportunity, and it's very,
agnostic.
Very easy.
Anybody can put their stuff up there. It's simple to do.
Yes.
And people, you can promote it, but then people stumble on it. So you're right. Yeah,
and it's you can, like you said, you can share it to your Facebook fans. You can put it. You can link to TikTok. That's the 54-year-old in me. TikTok.
I can probably clean that up in the end, but I might not.
No, don't worry about it. I mean, I'm proud to be 54. At the end of the day, you can promote it anywhere you want, but putting something out all the time consistently.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody, produce at least one article every single week.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the good start.
Yeah.
Now, my best advice that I ever got from writing, I listened to a Tim Ferriss podcast probably 6 or 7 years ago. Neil Gaiman, he was interviewing Neil Gaiman, and Neil Gaiman obviously just wrote Coraline, and he's written some of the best fiction books in America, and a phenomenal writer. And Neil Gaiman says, I sit down at a desk every single day, and I give myself permission to write. but I do not give myself permission to do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took that to heart the very next day after I heard it. And so I sit down at my desk at 8 a.m. in the morning, and I sit there, and for 45 minutes, I do not allow myself to do anything else except produce content.
That's awesome.
And that has helped me dramatically improve the quality of writing I produce,
Mm-hmm.
but also the quantity of writing that I'm producing.
Mm-hmm.
Because
So when someone hits you up for a 2,000-word article, you have that memory in your brain and fingers and typing and all that. You can pull it off.
yeah, you just know how to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, I know that I can do
Knock
it.
that out, yeah.
And from there, I generally do that first article that I produce isn't going to be very good. However, what I do is I kind of go back and I do a second edit, and I just kind of like scroll through it. I'm like, okay, I need to fix this or fix this, and this is a run-on sentence, which I'm known for. And
I'm known for wrong words.
yeah, then
Make up
basically
words.
I try to cut some of it. Then I basically will print it out. And when I print it out, I grab a clipboard and I put the article on a clipboard with a red pen, and I read it out loud to myself.
Yeah, interesting.
And when I read it out loud to myself, if it doesn't flow like a quality conversation with my reader should flow,
Yeah.
then basically I cut and redline like how to fix from there.
Oh, that's smart.
And then I go back and edit it, and then I hand it off to an editor. And from that point, or I basically, my wife is a 6th grade teacher, so she's my
pretty good
editor.
editor right
She's my
there.
editor for my blog.
Editor-in-chief.
And then for my magazine, I have Brittany. And Brittany puts all of my articles in front of a copy editor, and then she'll go through and clean it up, and then goes from there. Published.
Yeah, awesome. That's one. Another one I tell everybody too: don't be afraid that you won't have an audience or that you won't have people that like it, because I think Tim Ferriss on his show talked about the Kevin Kelly, who wrote an article about 1,000 true fans, and he said anything that you're doing in the world, whether you're writing or starting a business or whatever, just if you had 1,000 true fans, 1,000 people that loved what you're doing.
Yeah.
Imagine if those 1,000 people paid you $1 every month or every day or whatever. So don't think that there's people out there. There's 1,000 people like you who like what you like, and they'll subscribe. And it may take you a while to find them, but it'll happen. So. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at there's tons of people on Substack right now who are surviving on an $8 subscription.
Right.
I read the Free Press, which is a public press news source, basically, and it's all produced on Substack. And that basically newspaper that comes out every single day, they've got now 40 writers. I think they're valued at like $20 million or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Barry Weiss is producing some fabulous content.
Yeah.
It's has nothing to do with hunting and fishing, but it's a phenomenal content. And they're surviving on an $8 a month subscription.
Yeah, a lot of people.
And I'm happy to write that $8 because I learn when I read it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if you can find those like true believers that will subscribe to your content and pay for it, you can actually make a living.
Yeah, you're golden. Yep. Anything else you'd like to say to our audience before we wrap up?
Get outside.
There you go.
I mean, it's the fall. It's the most beautiful time in the world. I mean, this is my favorite season of the year. And get outside and go enjoy it. I mean, that's the most important thing in the world.
And I probably should not forget to ask you the question I ask everybody. It seems like the hardest question I ask. What's your favorite piece of outdoor gear under $100?
Ooh, under $100. Like a set of trekking poles.
Oh, good one.
Like a basic set of trekking poles.
Good one.
I have a set that I got off of Amazon, and it has a quarter-inch threaded screw top on the top of the trekking pole.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the beauty of what I like about that is I can take a camera mount and put it on that tripod, and I can hold my camera steady.
Yeah.
I can also put like a little V on it if I needed to use it for a shooting stick. And those trekking poles get me everywhere.
Awesome.
I like to hunt canyons and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, cool, awesome. Well, it's been good talking to you, and we'll talk again soon. I'll probably we'll have to do a follow-up once you guys get your new, after you've been 6 months on the job, see what that's been like.
No, I appreciate that.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.